I met Liam in the most unexpected way. It was a rainy afternoon, the kind that made the city feel lonelier than usual. I was late for an interview, umbrella flipping inside out, soaked from head to toe. As I fumbled to shield myself from the downpour, a sleek black car pulled over. The window rolled down, revealing a man in a charcoal coat and soft brown eyes. "You look like you could use a rescue," he said. That was Liam, the man I would fall in love with. The man I would lie to, the man I would ruin. He offered me his own jacket, one that smelled like cedar and mint, and drove me to a cafe nearby to dry off. I never made it to the interview, but I got something else instead, a charming stranger who seemed to care, who made me laugh through chattering teeth. He scribbled his number on a napkin, and I carried it home as if it were a winning lottery ticket. The beginning was cinematic. Dates under fairy lights, deep conversations over sushi, weekend getaways to the mountains. Liam had this calm confidence. He made you feel safe, like he'd take care of everything. He brought me daisies because I once told him they reminded me of my late grandmother. He'd send good morning texts and follow them with voice notes that melted my resolve. For a while, I believed I had found the one. But as weeks turned into months, something shifted. The calls got shorter, the texts delayed. Our dinners were interrupted by work emails. Liam was a startup guy, charismatic, obsessive, tunnel vision. I understood ambition, I respected it. But I didn't appreciate being demoted from priority to footnote. I started feeling invisible. I'd spend hours preparing dinner, only for him to cancel last minute. I once dressed up for a surprise date night. He didn't notice. I told myself he was just busy, just trying to build a future for us. And then came Amanda. I wasn't snooping, not really. He left his phone on the couch while showering, and a message popped up. "Still think about Bali, miss your laugh." My stomach clenched. Amanda was his ex, the one he told me he was over. The one he said was ancient history. I didn't open the message. I didn't need to. The words were enough to ignite something dark in me. I didn't scream or cry. I smiled when he came out of the shower. I kissed him like nothing had changed, but everything had. For days, I played it cool. I watched him, studied him. He lied easily. He said he was staying late at work when I knew he wasn't. He told me he loved me, but his eyes flickered elsewhere. That's when the thought first came, uninvited, absurd, yet somehow perfect. What if I told him I was pregnant? At first, I laughed it off. That would be insane, cruel. But the more I considered it, the more it felt like a solution. Liam had always said he wanted kids. Maybe this would shake him. Make him see me again. Make him choose me. But it wasn't just about getting his attention. The idea morphed into something more sinister. It was about control. About making him feel what I felt: powerless, uncertain, desperate. So I began to plan. First, I researched pregnancy symptoms. I downloaded forums, read blogs, even subscribed to a parenting newsletter. I studied the signs, the ones I would mimic. I learned about hormone changes, cravings, first trimester fatigue. I practiced looking anxious in the mirror. Then I bought a cheap test kit. I didn't use it, of course. But I kept it visible in the bathroom, just enough for him to notice. Over the next week, I began dropping hints. I avoided coffee. I gagged at the smell of eggs. I touched my stomach with a distant expression. Liam noticed. He asked if I was feeling okay. I told him it was probably a stomach bug. Then, one evening, I acted distraught. I sat on the couch, eyes wide, hands shaking. "Liam," I said softly, "I think I'm pregnant." He stared at me like I had spoken in another language. "Are you sure?" I nodded. He didn't smile. He didn't panic either. He just sat down slowly, rubbing his hands together. "Well," he whispered. "Okay, we can handle this." I expected resistance. Instead, I got stunned obedience. Within days, he changed. He started coming home earlier. He brought me prenatal vitamins. He canceled a trip to Singapore. He bought books about fatherhood. He even asked about moving to a quieter neighborhood. It was working, and I felt powerful. But beneath that power lurked something else: shame, guilt. Every time he rubbed my back, every time he whispered, "We've got this," I felt a pang of nausea that had nothing to do with fake morning sickness. Yet I pressed on. The lie was growing, and soon I wouldn't be able to stop. Not without losing everything. The day after I told Liam I was pregnant, he brought home fresh orange juice and ginger candies. "I read they help with nausea," he said with a sheepish smile. The thought was sweet, almost enough to make me feel human again. But I wasn't human, I was an actress now. Every smile, every sigh, every hand on my stomach was part of a role I had chosen, and the curtain was still rising. Over the next few days, I doubled down on my performance. I set alarms in the early morning, made trips to the bathroom to simulate morning sickness. I spoke to no one about it, not my friends, not my sister, no one. The fewer people who knew, the cleaner the lie remained. Every time Liam looked at me with concern, I felt a twisted satisfaction bloom inside me. He started staying home more, skipped his Friday drinks with colleagues, turned down a speaking engagement in Miami. It was happening. Slowly but surely, his world was rotating around me again. But pretending to be pregnant is far more than acting tired and avoiding wine. I had to play the long game. I started researching week-by-week fetal development. "Our baby is the size of a poppy seed this week," I'd say casually over dinner, watching his eyes soften. He began showing signs of hope. He placed a protective hand on my lower back when crossing streets. He'd ask if I'd eaten enough protein that day. He took to reading blogs on parenting, bookmarking articles on baby names and sleep routines. I printed a sonogram I found online and tucked it into an envelope marked private. When he found it, I pretended to be upset. "I wanted to surprise you," I whispered. The lie began to take on a life of its own. I had to create imaginary doctor appointments full of excuses for why he couldn't come. COVID restrictions, I'd say too early for heartbeat. The nurse said the first few visits are boring. Some nights, I lay awake and wondered when I became this person. I wasn't always manipulative. I had once dreamed of a quiet, stable life. But Liam had made me desperate. He had made me feel small, replaceable. This was just balance. And then something happened I hadn't expected. He cried. It was a Tuesday night. We were watching a documentary on parenting, his idea. I was pretending to be half asleep on the couch. The narrator spoke about the moment a father hears his baby cry for the first time. Liam suddenly paused the TV. "I never had a good father," he said quietly. I sat up. "He was around," Liam continued, "but he wasn't there. I always promised myself, if I ever had a child, I'd be different." His voice cracked. He wiped his eyes. "Thank you," he said to me, "for giving me this." The guilt hit me like a punch to the ribs. For a moment, I considered ending the charade. I imagined telling him the truth, falling into his arms, apologizing through tears. But I didn't. I smiled and said, "You'll be an amazing dad." The next day, he started looking at real estate listings. "We need more space," he said. "A nursery. Maybe a backyard." My stomach twisted. He was committing financially, emotionally, spiritually, and I was lying to his face. One evening, we went to a baby store. He wanted to pick out a crib. I stalled, told him it was too early. He nodded, but I saw the confusion flash in his eyes. That was the beginning of the doubt, a flicker. But I snuffed it out quickly with another staged wave of nausea and a fainting spell that had him driving me home in a panic. His schedule revolved around me. He began meal prepping pregnancy-safe dishes, tracking my water intake, asking if I needed foot rubs. He even pulled out his old savings account, one he had kept and touched for years. "This is for our child now," he said, transferring it to a joint account. I wanted to throw up, but I kept going. I couldn't stop. The deeper I went, the harder it became to climb out. Each layer of the lie was rooted in something real: his fear of abandonment, his desire to be a better man, and I was using it all. One night, I had a dream. I was holding a baby, a real one. It looked like Liam. He was smiling. I was crying. But then the baby turned to me and whispered, "Liar." I woke up sweating. That morning, Liam surprised me with tickets to a prenatal yoga retreat. "It'll be good for you," he said. "For us." I made up an excuse about work. More and more, I was cornering myself. The web I spun was tightening. Every moment of love he gave me was when I stole under false pretenses. And yet, I justified it, told myself I deserved this. That I was repairing what he broke when he drifted away. The last straw of this chapter came in the form of a phone call. Liam's mother wanted to host a family dinner to celebrate the news. She wanted to meet me officially. "You're carrying my grandchild," she said cheerfully over speakerphone. Liam beamed. I forced a smile. That night, I sat alone in the bathroom, staring at my reflection. Who was I becoming? And more importantly, how much longer could I keep this up? The dinner with Liam's family was set for a Saturday evening. I had 5 days to prepare, not just my appearance, but my story, our story. What had we told them so far? How far along was I supposed to be? What details had I let slip to Liam that might come up in conversation? Every answer had to be perfect. Every lie had to be airtight. I wore a soft blue dress with an empire waist, the kind that subtly suggested a bump without revealing anything. Liam couldn't stop smiling when I walked into the living room. "You're glowing," he said, his eyes filled with pride. His parents lived in a large, ivy-wrapped house on the outskirts of the city. The kind of place with a wraparound porch, the smell of fresh pie floating from the kitchen, and a family dog too old to bark. Liam's mother greeted me with open arms. "Look at you." "Oh, little miracle." I forced a smile, swallowing the rising nausea that had nothing to do with hormones. Dinner was a blur. I recited lines I had practiced all week. How I found out, how we reacted, our plans for the nursery. Liam's dad, a man of few words, even raised a glass and said, "To new life." I felt like a fraud at a christening. But it wasn't until later, when Liam's mother pulled me aside in the kitchen, that the ground beneath me really began to shake. "You remind me of myself when I was pregnant with Liam," she said warmly, drying her hands. "But be careful, Liam. He feels things deeply, too deeply. He doesn't handle heartbreak well." My mouth went dry. She continued, "When Amanda left him, he was a wreck for months. I've never seen him like that. Just promise me you'll be kind to him, no matter what happens." I nodded, suddenly too cold despite the oven's heat. She kissed my cheek and returned to the dining room, leaving me staring at a stack of clean dishes and the reflection of a liar in the oven door. Back home, the dream came again. This time the baby didn't whisper, it screamed. A sharp, blood-curdling cry that jolted me awake. My hands went straight to my belly, a reflex now, even though I knew it was flat as ever. Liam stirred beside me. "You okay? Just a dream," I whispered, turning away. The next few weeks were a blur of obligations and tightening knots. Liam insisted on joining me for a doctor's appointment. I panicked, canceled the fake one I'd set, and claimed a scheduling error. But he persisted. "I just want to hear the heartbeat." Desperation clawed at me. I told him I'd handle it, that I was anxious about being poked and prodded. He reluctantly backed off, but I knew that rope was shortening. Then came the baby shower. His friends and colleagues wanted to throw a surprise shower. I overheard him on the phone with his assistant. "Just keep it small, she gets overwhelmed easily." My heart raced. How could I fake sonograms, gifts, belly size? I begged him to hold off. "It's too early," I said. "What if something goes wrong?" He nodded slowly. "I just thought it might help you feel supported." It did the opposite. Each new expression of love and support felt like a shovel digging me deeper. I found myself crying in the bathroom more often. whispering apologies to no one. I was living in a lie so thick I couldn't breathe. And then I got a text from Amanda. It came out of nowhere. Can we talk? Just once, please. I froze. How did she get my number? Curiosity won. I met her at a cafe across town. She looked tired, sincere, and she got right to it. I don't want him back, she said, but you need to know. Liam doesn't just move on, he rewrites people. Changes the story to make himself the hero. When we broke up, he made it look like I abandoned him. But the truth, he neglected me for 2 years, gaslit me. Made me feel like I was crazy. I said nothing. Amanda continued, he's charming, yes, but he's also manipulative. And if you ever tried to leave, he'll twist it. You'll be the villain. Just like I was, her words echoed in my head for days. Was I the manipulator? Or was he? Could we both be? Who was using who? That night, I confronted Liam. Why did you and Amanda really break up? He stiffened. Why are we talking about her? Because she messaged me. His face darkened. You shouldn't have answered. She said you twisted the story. That you lied about her. He laughed bitterly. Of course she did. That's what she does, plays the victim. But what if she's not? He stared at me. Do you believe her over me? I hesitated. That hesitation was enough. He stood abruptly, pacing the living room. I've given you everything. I changed my life for you. And now you're questioning my past. My voice cracked. I just want the truth. He turned to me, eyes cold. You can't handle the truth. Apparently, we didn't speak the rest of the night. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was in too deep, not just in the lie, but in the relationship itself. I had planned to trap him, but now it felt like I was the one caught in a web. A week later, he brought home a tiny baby onesie. Jess sighed and couldn't resist, he said, holding it up with a soft smile. I burst into tears. He held me, mistaking it for pregnancy hormones. But I cried because I realized there was no way out now that wouldn't destroy us both. The air in the apartment felt heavier these days, thick with the tension of unspoken truths and secrets held too tightly. I could feel it every time Liam looked at me, a look that once held warmth and hope, now shadowed with confusion and doubt. The lie I had woven so carefully was starting to unravel, thread by fragile thread. Liam had been more attentive, almost unbearably so. He was there at every meal, every quiet moment. He read parenting articles aloud to me, as if preparing himself for a role I had no right to claim. He had bought a second-hand crib from an online sale and set it up in the corner of the living room. The sight of it made my chest ache. That crib held no baby, no future, just my desperate deceit. I was exhausted, though not from the fake pregnancy symptoms I had been mimicking. The nights were the hardest hours spent awake, heart pounding, hands shaking as I stared at the ceiling, imagining the moment Liam would see through my lies. At first, Liam's questions had been gentle, cautious. Did you take the test again? He asked one evening, handing me a glass of water. I nodded, swallowing the panic rising in my throat. Yes, it was positive. He smiled, relief washing over his face. That's good, so good. But soon, the questions became more probing. Did you schedule another doctor's appointment? He asked on a Friday morning, watching me with a mix of hope and skepticism. I tried. I lied. The clinic's busy. They had to reschedule. His brow furrowed. Maybe I can go with you next time. The thought of dragging him into this web terrified me. Not yet, I said quickly. I want it to be private for now. He gave a small nod but didn't look convinced. Each morning, I forced myself to act tired, yawning exaggeratedly, rubbing my eyes, and sometimes curling up on the couch like I could barely keep myself upright. The nausea was fake, but the guilt was very real. I avoided coffee and alcohol, carefully selecting pregnancy-safe foods when Liam cooked for me. The scent of garlic made me gag, and I made sure Liam noticed every time. My days became a meticulous routine of deception. I researched every stage of pregnancy, learning about fetal development week by week so I could describe the imaginary growth of our child convincingly. I memorized symptoms and common experiences, repeating them in conversations with Liam until they sounded natural. The bathroom became my hiding place, a sanctuary where I'd sit with tears I couldn't show Liam, whispering apologies to the empty tiles. Liam was clearly trying to be present, but the distance between us grew. It was as if the lie, meant to bring us closer, was pushing us apart instead. His eyes often searched mine, trying to find the real me behind the act. One evening, after dinner, he reached out and took my hand. "I want to believe in us," he said softly. "But sometimes it feels like you're slipping away." I squeezed his hand, fighting back tears. "I'm here," I whispered, but even as I said it, I felt myself slipping further into the void I had created. One afternoon, Liam's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his smile faltering as he read the message. "I have to deal with Amanda again," he muttered. "She won't leave me alone." I watched him carefully. Later that night, as we sat on the couch, I finally asked the question I had been avoiding. "Do you still have feelings for her?" He looked at me. I shadowed. "I thought I was over her." "But you're not." He sighed deeply. "It's complicated." That word hung between us, heavy with meaning. One night, as rain poured outside, Liam pulled me close. "I'm scared," he admitted, voice breaking. "Scared I'll fail as a father. Scared I'll lose you." His confession shattered the last pieces of my resolve. "I'm scared too," I whispered, resting my head on his shoulder. For a brief moment, the lie felt real. Almost like hope, but the lie was a ticking time bomb. Liam wanted to go to doctor appointments with me. He wanted to hear the baby's heartbeat. I made excuses. "The doctor said it's too early. There's nothing new to see. I'll go alone next time." He grew suspicious. "I want to be involved," he insisted. "Please." Each refusal made me feel like a criminal. The biggest challenge came when Liam's friends decided to throw a baby shower. "I want you to feel loved and supported," he said, excited. I panicked. How can I face all those people? What if they ask questions? What if they see through me? He frowned. "We can keep it small." I nodded, but anxiety gnawed at me. The thought of being surrounded by curious eyes terrified me, and then it came. A message that cut deeper than any lie. "Amanda, can we talk?" "Just once, please." My heart raced. Why now? What did she want? Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet Amanda at a quiet cafe. She looked tired but sincere. "I don't want him back," she said, voice low. "But you need to know what kind of man Liam really is." Her words hit me like a thunderclap. "He's manipulative," she said. "He twists the truth to make himself the victim." I sat in stunned silence. When I told Liam about Amanda's message, he was furious. "Why did you talk to her?" "Because you lied to me," I said. He laughed bitterly. "She's a liar." I wasn't sure anymore who was lying. That night, Liam confronted me. "I know the truth," he said, voice shaking. I wanted to confess, to break free, but fear chained my tongue. "I did it because you left me," I whispered. His eyes filled with pain. "We're broken." I nodded, tears streaming. Days passed in cold silence. The man who had loved me now looked at me with betrayal. I was alone. The morning sun streamed through the curtains, casting warm light over the quiet kitchen. Liam and I sat across from each other, the air heavy with the weight of unspoken words. I could no longer carry the secret alone. It was breaking me from the inside out. "I can't live this lie anymore," I whispered, eyes fixed on the chipped paint of the table. Liam reached out, his hand trembling as it covered mine. "Then tell me everything," he said softly, searching my face for the truth. With a trembling breath, I began. I told him about every fake symptom, every forced smile, every doctor's appointment that never happened. About the loneliness that pushed me to create a world where I mattered again. I told him how scared I was, scared of losing him, scared of being invisible. As the words poured out, I saw his face change shock, hurt, confusion, and finally something like sorrow. Why didn't you tell me sooner? His voice cracked because I was afraid. Afraid you'd hate me, leave me for good, I admitted. He pulled me into a tight embrace. I'm not perfect, he whispered, but I never stopped caring. The days that followed were hard. Friends turned away, families whispered, and the world we'd built began to crumble. Liam needed space, and I needed forgiveness. But amidst the ruins, a fragile thread of hope remained. We started to rebuild, brick by brick. It wasn't easy. There were tears, arguments, and nights spent apart. But we talked honestly, facing the pain instead of hiding from it. We learned that love isn't perfect. It's messy, raw, and sometimes painful. But it's also about choosing each other every day even when it's hard. Months later, we stood hand in hand at the park, watching children laugh and run under the golden sun. We didn't have a baby growing inside me, but we had something stronger, a chance to rewrite our story not with lies, but with truth. Liam smiled at me, eyes full of hope, ready to start over. I nodded, feeling lighter than I had in years. Sometimes, the hardest truths are the ones that save us. Pretending was my way of surviving, but honesty is how I truly lived again. I lost a lie, but I found myself, and in that, everything else followed.